like, no. Okay, so today I chose to tell you guys some stories that I was told when I was little or younger. Little, I guess you could say little. Some ghost stories that I was told from where we used to live with my great-grandma and my mom and my dad and a whole bunch of other people in my great-grandma's house that she used to own before she passed. Okay, this house was haunted. The man of the house, the father and the husband, father/husband, he killed his 2 kids. What the hell? That's weird. You see this blue stream of light right here? That's weird. Anyways, he killed his 2 kids. Or 3 kids. I don't remember. I know there was a boy and a girl. There could have been 3. I think 2 boys and a girl. And then he killed his wife. He shot them. And then he hung himself. Okay? They still, until this day, haunt that house. Okay? After my great-grandma couldn't take care of it anymore. She sold it, I think. And the landlord let some it was actually my mom's best friend, one of her best friends, live in it. And she moved out a couple months later because she experienced the same thing we was experiencing when we was in the house. You know, doors slamming, or when you're sleeping you hear the doorknob move like somebody's trying to get in there. When you would go downstairs from the house, in the house, to go upstairs or downstairs, say you're in the living room, and you can hear the dishes rattling, okay? Like, seriously, rattling. Like, somebody's looking for a certain dish to cook breakfast or something. And, which reminds me, you wake up to the smell of breakfast. And my mom told me one time she was left at home. She had her room in the attic, which was the scariest place. It was the attic and the basement, the 2 scariest places in that house. Anyways, she was left alone, and she heard dishes rattling when she was taking a shower upstairs. She came downstairs thinking my grandma or my great-grandma was cooking breakfast for everybody, and she found out she was the only one there. And she heard the dishes rattling. She smelled bacon and eggs and pancakes and stuff. And she said she sat outside for the rest of the day until they came back, because nobody loved staying in that house at all because of the stuff you would hear. Okay? One story that I heard that freaked me out, even though I was no longer living in there, I was living with my grandma and my mom and my brother and my aunt in my grandma's house, was one day my grandma was in the living room with my aunt Virginia, and her friend Lisa, her ex-best friend Lisa. And they heard somebody, she was with my mom, my grandma had my mom, and my mom was like 2 years old, 1 or 2. And since she's the oldest, she was the only children my grandma had. So they were sitting in there watching TV, blah blah blah. All of a sudden, somebody storms in the house, leaves the kitchen door wide open, and they run upstairs. Whoever came in the house ran upstairs and was going through people's stuff, like pulling the drawers out of the dressers and knocking them on the floor and throwing stuff everywhere. So they were scared, because when my grandma came out to ask if it was my Uncle Titi who was living with them too, she didn't give no reply. She asked like 4 or 5 times. She screamed his name. Titi, 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 are you there? Is that you? Blah, blah, blah. It wasn't him. So they went and sat on the porch for at least, an hour and a half. All of a sudden, you see my uncle, who they thought went upstairs, coming down the street. And when he got there, my grandma told him what happened. This dude is her brother, obviously. He's my great uncle. she told him what happened, and he was like, Lupe, that wasn't me. I was down the street. I was busy doing something down the street. So he goes in the kitchen, he grabs a big butcher knife and runs upstairs. He's cussing like, who the hell is in my house, blah, blah, blah. Then he comes back downstairs. He tells my grandma somebody was going through their stuff. And she says, oh, I thought that was you. So if it wasn't you, who the hell was it? Until this day, they know it wasn't no human. They know it was a ghost. One of them ghosts. One of them ghosts that live in their house in present time. Their present time. Okay, now, this last story I'm about to tell y'all. My great-grandma, it was before I was born, or my little brother. And my mom was young, I think. And so was my uncles and aunt. They was upstairs. Hold up. I don't think my mom was born at all. My aunt and my uncle, the ones that I just told you about, my grandma and my uncle, they was upstairs watching novelas, the Spanish soap operas, in the living room, in the same house. They're all mesmerized in the TV, and my great grandma, she has like a little voice, and she barely ever spoke English. But she was in the basement, hanging up clothes, and all of a sudden, my grandma said she heard her voice, really, really low, calling her name, Lupe, Lupe. And my grandma turns to my uncle and she goes, hey, she's calling you. And then my great grandma keeps calling, Lupe, Lupe. He goes, she ain't calling me, she calling you, go down there. So she goes, come with me then. He was like, nah, I ain't about to do that. So my grandma goes downstairs, and I told you, the basement was one of the scariest places in that house. Including, also the attic. But the basement was scarier. She went down the stairs, all the lights was off. And she goes downstairs, and my great grandma's huddled in the corner, petrified, because the lights went out on her. Next thing you know, after they're upstairs, she tells my grandmother that when she was hanging up clothes, she saw a pair of hands like this. I can't show you because I'm holding the camera. Hold up. Like this. On the clothesline that she was hanging the clothes on. And because it was storming outside, she looked up, and this dude from next door, he was a creeper. He always stole, like, I thought she said stole their panties, but he was never inside. It was one of her friends' uncle or dad that lived in their basement. They called him the Cuco because he was creepy, and he always like snuck around their house and stuff. He was in the basement window, outside the basement window, but looking through it at my great grandma. When them lights went off, them hands disappeared, and she was freaked out. She never, even though she saw stuff and heard stuff and felt stuff, she never, ever wanted to spend any night or anywhere, any night, other than her own house, because she owned that house. My great-grandfather, before he passed, bought that house for her. And it was her house. She never wanted to go anywhere but that house. One time, my grandma, she felt like her mom was sad. So she was like, Ma, come over here to the house so we can watch movies or whatever. And she goes, no, why don't you come and stay here with me? She was scared, but she never liked to admit it because, well, that was her house. Anyways, that was only a couple stories from my childhood. Maybe I'll tell some more.